right. Welcome to the Men's Alliance podcast. We've got a special guest today, Tom Pfanner. Tom is from Dads Who Lead, and we're going to learn about what that is here today, about his ministry. I've had the opportunity to have a couple conversations with him now, and really excited about what this guy's doing, why he's doing it, how he's doing it, and hearing his story. It's always encouraging to meet other like-minded Christian men who are on similar paths and out there, on the same mission, on the same battlefield. And it's always encouraging to just run into other Christian brothers who are out there fighting. So, Tom, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you, man. I'm honored to be here. Honored to share.
Man, I'm just excited about people hearing your story. To start off, just tell us a little bit about your ministry, what your organization does.
Yeah, Dads Who Lead, our mission is to equip men to become the trusted and revered leader of their home. And the specific point that we're really focused on in this season, and when I say this season, I would say probably the next 3 or 4 years at least, is to help men regain a connection with their teenagers when they start to hit that age where they start to get the eye rolls and they're not that little kid that they be able to throw up in the air anymore, and they're starting to become their own person, and to really anchor in shifting our beliefs that their growth doesn't mean our separation from them, and not a separation from our ability to lead them. So we're really helping dads learn how to lead at a new level with their teenagers.
Man, that's so awesome. What a difficult age that is, man. When kids are like, about 8 to 12, I think is like the sweet spot, somewhere in there, where they're old enough to do fun stuff and to remember everything you do with them, and they're still young enough to think you're amazing, right?
Yes.
And then you cross that point where they don't think you're Superman anymore, and you're not cool anymore, and they're annoyed by your presence, and they want you to drop them off, a block away from wherever it is they're going. That's when I think, it's like the needle screeches to a halt.
Yes.
And you're like, I've been good at being a dad here for the past 12, 13 years. I've been feeling pretty good about it, and now I feel like there's no roadmap for this new territory. So that what you're doing, that time period is so critical. Tell us some of the how you do that. How do you go about accomplishing your mission?
Absolutely. Great question. I'll start with our initial program, then I'll kind of go back. We have a book that we just released as well. I was a middle school PE teacher as well. And so in my time there, I really saw this gap as kids are progressing from what they believe that they're able to accomplish as a youth, and then as they get into adulthood, they hit the ground and they realize, like, wow, I've just been used to doing tasks for other people for the last 18 years, and I don't know how to do tasks for myself. And so it broke my heart, because a lot of really talented young men and women are moving through the school system and they feel like they've got everything they need. But there's a big piece of being able to guide themselves, listening to the Word of God, that's missing. And I think that starts with having a powerful connection with our earthly Father. And so we created a father-son retreat program that is based around helping the young men and their dads as well really anchor into becoming the main character in their own story, and what that looks like, and what it requires of them as men. And it gives the young men permission to step into this role of manhood, and it gives the dads a permission to create a shift in their heart of how they are leading and guiding. And it's done, as men, we progress through challenges and rank, and something you earn. A birthday party is not something you earn. You just happen to turn a certain age. We need, as men, to be able to show and prove that are worthy to take this step. And so the rite of passage program that we put together is to create a shift in the relationship between dad and son, where dad's not there anymore to tell the son what to do, to provide for him and give him tasks, but rather be there to prepare him for what's ahead in his journey and to be there as a mentor.
Yeah, man, I love what you're talking about earned and birthday parties. That's so good. I think as men, we love a challenge,
Yes.
right? And even it's more than just love a challenge. It's like we need a challenge, and we need to be challenged, and we need to see ourselves accomplishing things. We need to see ourselves, attacking those challenges and succeeding. Even small stuff, and not just physical, but spiritual and academic. Like when we see ourselves memorize something or learn something, be able to apply something, be able to climb something, that like does something inside of us.
Yes.
Right. And I think the young man who hasn't been challenged, but he's just been constantly celebrated for no accomplishment, there just remains something in his heart and soul that is just a void. Right? There's something in him that has never been answered. He's got those questions still. If you don't challenge, if all you do is celebrate, like it seems like we've been doing in our culture for so long, and reintroducing these challenges is a way to answer that question within every man's soul.
Yes. That question, like, do I have what it takes?
Yes,
Yes.
that's right. That's the question, right?
Yes.
Do I have what it takes? Man, so what age do you recommend for fathers and sons doing this? What's the rite of passage age, do you think?
Great question. There are different approaches. As I've researched this, I've found that for our program specifically, we start like 8th grade going into high school is the earliest. And I think there's some powerful things that can be done at like that 11 to 13 range. But there's a certain amount of development that I believe is powerful to have prior to like a true rite of passage shift. Now, if you're just talking about, hey, let's go out and let's do a one-on-one trip with me and my son, like absolutely get those as many as you can. But to have this,
start those anytime.
Yeah, but to create this real shift, I believe it's important not so much to think about the age, but think about the young man's development. Like, is he gone through some challenges, and what are the questions that he's being asked at school? What are the challenges that he's going to face? So I would say the ideal is like, if you feel like, hey, maybe my son has, like, I know he asked a girl out and she shut him down, and he's interested in some of the like more adult activities. He's maybe starting to like get through puberty. He's going into high school. Right before a shift in environment is a really powerful time to do it. I think ideally, as you're asking that question, I would say something going into high school and something going into college, because they're both going to unlock a new level of freedom and responsibility that young man has that he hasn't experienced before. And I tell this story, like when kids get to the end of the school year, when I was a teacher in middle school, they would throw pipers in the air, pull fire alarms. They had no idea what to do. They were just stoked that they had the freedom. And they get to the next day, first day of summer, they have zero plan of what to do or what's ahead. So having a space to get anchored and grounded in who they are as a man and what they want to accomplish before they go into these environments will allow them to enter the environment and not have the environment enter them.
Wow,
makes sense.
That's really good.
Yeah,
that's good. I think when you look at other cultures that have done rites of passage and stuff, one of the ones that comes to my mind is the Jewish culture, with bar mitzvahs and stuff, and we tend to see them doing it at like 13 or something, which I've like always been surprised. I've raised two men now, two sons who are both grown adult men. And as I was doing that, I was thinking, cultures are doing this at 13. Like 13 seems really young, and I think that a part of it is, well, they were growing up a lot faster, a few
Yes.
centuries ago. 13-year-olds, a few hundred years ago were very different from 13-year-olds today. So I'm with you in that I don't think picking a number is necessarily, the right approach. I think it's like, the maturity level of your son and when it's the right time. And I love your idea about, freshmen going into high school, freshmen going into college or out of high school. Man, that seems like a really good milestone. I like that.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit of your personal story. How did you go from middle school teacher to running this organization? What happened to bring you into this world that you now occupy?
Amazing. Yeah. There was a lot of attacks along the way, so I'm happy that you asked. So as I mentioned, being a middle school PE teacher, I saw this gap. And so as I was still a teacher, I launched this program in 2021. And initially it was just going to be just for kids. And as I was promoting it, it was really difficult to create traction as a brand new program. And so I said, all right, well, what if we tied the dads in? Then it's something they can do together. And I realized how much the dads could grow as well. And my son, Charles, he was just starting 8th grade when we did the first one in October of 2021. He was a part of it. I was coaching his football team. Things were going really well. It's like if you're watching a movie and you're like, oh, everything's going great, and you kind of have this feeling like something is going to crash. And it did.
Yeah.
Right. So my son's mom actually moved earlier in the year. And so she wasn't really much in the picture. And following the first event in October, in that following January, I was coaching wrestling, and I reached out and tried to get a hold of my son, Charles, who is in 8th grade, and I couldn't get a hold of him. And I called my parents to see if they had heard from him. They hadn't heard from him. I called my wife. She hadn't heard from him. Nobody had heard from him. Friends, parents. And so if you've ever had this time where you're not able to get a hold of your kid, 5 minutes feels like 5 hours. And so I had this sinking feeling like either he is actually in trouble or he's completely rebelling against me and deliberately ignoring me. Both of those are very bad. So finally, I get a hold of him on the phone, and he says, Dad, I'm tired of you. I'm tired of being controlled and told what to do. I'm moving in with Mom across state. Peace out. End of call. So his mom lives like about 2 hours away. So that it wasn't like, oh, we could commute to school or what. No, it was like you're one or the other. And it was over the pass. So it was like it was not an easy 2-hour drive. So I'm here sitting in his empty bedroom. I've just committed the last year of my life to put together this father-son retreat program, and my own teenage son walks out of my life. And I think like there was really no one else left to turn to but God and say, like, what is this? How can you guide me through this? And God said, like, there's no one left to change but you. Can't talk to Charles. You can't talk to his teachers, and there's no influencing his results. You've got to rewrite your leadership as a dad. And that going into the rest of that year, so the second half of his 8th grade year, his attendance to school dropped. He wasn't doing sports. He wasn't working. He was attending school sometimes. His attendance rate was less than 70%, which if you know statistics, like if your kids are under about a 96% attendance rate, that's at risk. And so 70 is like very low likelihood. He had almost all straight Fs. I think he had a C in one class. And he had picked up smoking weed. So his arc had just like plummeted as he made this move. And I'm not blaming anybody specifically for that. The environment, multiple factors, maybe me not being there, contributed to him being really lost on this road. And so I had been teaching for 7 years. So if you know about teaching, you kind of get to a certain point where you're kind of locked in, you're past your 3-year probationary period. We had bought a house in 2015 before the prices went up. So our mortgage was good. We had a newborn. My daughter Leela was born in April of 2022. And then my middle child, Maddie, she was about 3 years old at the time. And so like we have everything going on in the worldly realm in Eugene. But God led us and said, like, go after the sheep. Go after the one that ran. Like, leave all this and pursue him. Because we knew if he didn't, and I give my credit to my wife as well for making this decision to move away. If we didn't move away, our concern is that he was going to be addicted to drugs and dropped out of high school by the time we get to Christmas. So there was a big urgency to make this happen. And so we went through the court process. Thankfully, because we were able to show, like, even though Charles didn't want anything to do with me at the time, we had like, this is how things are going with Dad. This is how things are going without Dad. And I said, all right, well, if you move out there, you can have 50-50 time, split custody. And it was a big victory. But that was just really like the first battle. The second battle was actually rewriting the relationship with Charles. And this is why, as I talk to dads who go through the court system, which is not like my main focus, but it's something that happens more and more. They say like, great, I have time on the ledger, but do my kids want to spend time with me is a completely different battle, especially when they're teenagers. When they're 10, it's like, it's time with your mom, it's time with your dad. There's not a lot of resistance. But the older they get, the more difficult that can become. And so through this process and getting a coach and being closer to God, I rewrote my leadership as a dad so that Charles could lean into me in this season as a leader, as opposed to feeling like he has to pull away. And that really has helped me guide him much better. And really, he's the main character in his own story. I'm just here to help guide and direct him when he goes off course. But when he asks for it, instead of me telling him, that's really one of the paramount differences. And enjoying adventures and things with him side by side and respecting him as a man and knowing that he's going to make mistakes and that he knows that I'm going to love him no matter what he does or doesn't do. It's just a matter of him writing his own story and steering his own ship. And that you're not going to learn that ever until somebody just gives you, if you ever steered like a sailboat, until you have a tiller and you get crashed capsize from an unexpected wind, like that's the only way, especially young men, are going to learn, is when they crash. And so surrendering that was a big piece of the journey for me.
Man, I love, the part of your story that is so powerful to me is when you talk about, here I am putting together this program for dads, and I've got this problem going with my own son. And I think every man can relate to that on some level, because whether it's our marriage relationship, or our parenting relationship, or whatever it may be, maybe it's our job, we all fall short of the ideal that we're pursuing in some area, some category. And I definitely believe, that Satan wants to use that, throw that up in our face, and use that as an opportunity to put us back on the sideline. Because the last thing he wants is somebody like you or me leading others. And when you and I talked earlier, we've both been under those attacks where you feel, how can I lead anybody else? My own house isn't in order, right? And there's this perception that if we're going to lead, that we have to have everything perfect in our life first in order to lead. And that's just absolutely unattainable. That's not true. If that were true, nobody would lead, right? Like,
Yes.
think about pastors of churches.
Yeah.
They don't have everything together. They've got the same problems with their kids and with their marriage as all of us do. They're normal. They're dudes, and they're just trying to lead others. But it doesn't mean they're perfect. And how did you overcome that lie, that wound, in order to keep leading and keep doing what you're doing?
It was really hard. That second year, it was very difficult to get on calls with dads when my own son wasn't really wanting anything to do with me. But with that guidance, one of the things would say is I got a coach, and a coach was able to help see things and gaps that I wasn't seeing for myself. And that helped me blow through some ceilings that I wasn't aware of. And in addition to that, obviously leaning into God's will and knowing that on the other side of this, who is a dad going to want to guide them? Somebody who has had a great relationship with their kids and everything is like, oh yeah, we go out. I see this archetype online, and I'm sure it's not how their life actually is. But I see the guy that's like, yeah, I wake up at 5 a.m., I do a cold plunge and then a sauna, and then I work out, and then I can make my family this beautiful breakfast, and I drive them to school, and it's like, oh, dude, that guy looks awesome. But like, what is the story beneath it? What's the challenge? What's the, like, where are the scars that shows that he's equipped not just to do the thing, but to help guide others that are going through the challenges? So it's interesting that even though there was an attack, that attack has now been one of the greatest parts of my story, that I'm able to connect with dads who feel their teenagers pulling away. Like, I've been there. In my book, I say, like, I'm not a PhD in child psychology from Stanford. I'm just a dad that's gone through some challenges, some like really rough patches with my teenager. And through that, and like, I know that he needs me. And if I'm not there, it's really not going to be good. So what do I need to do to decode how I can change myself as a leader? And so that's really what the book is about. The book is really about rewriting our leadership. And the subtitle is How to Stop Parenting and Start Leading. And that's really the shift that I had in my heart. Like, I'm not here to parent my kid. I'm here to lead him. And it was a lot of surrendering, a lot of letting go of control, because as men, we grow and we overcome challenges, and we want to show our kids how to do it, how we've overcome it, but they don't want that. They want to be able to overcome the challenges on their own to some degree.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the book. Tell us your title and what went into that.
Yeah, so the title is Dads Who Lead, The Ultimate Guide to Stop Parenting and Start Leading. It was about a 3-year process to write the book. And it goes through 5 attributes of leadership. And so just like an athlete, like, what do you need to be a great athlete? Well, you need speed, toughness, discipline, agility, strength. You need these different attributes. And at different times, you need different attributes at different levels. And so the 5 attributes that are discussed in the book, the acronym is FORGE: faith, ownership, respect, groundbreaking adventures, and excellence. And so those all build on each other. And each of them is important in their own ways, but we got to start with the base, with faith. Because if you don't have faith, in ourselves, faith that God has specifically chosen you to guide your son, to guide your daughter. It's all part of his plan. If you don't have faith in God and that plan, it's going to make things very difficult because doubt is going to creep in. And then finally, faith in your family and faith in their abilities. So, yeah, I could go on. I'll stop there and ask what other questions you have about it.
Man, that's awesome. That's a great resource. I know we've talked a lot about sons, fathers,
Yes.
and sons. Is your program, is your book, is this geared towards dads with daughters as well? Hey men, is your money reflecting how God wants to use you? Do you have a plan for your money? Are you optimizing your situation on taxes and investments? I want to tell you guys about Tom Doc Love. He's over at the Main Street Group, and he will help sharpen you around money. Now, I personally use Doc and the Main Street Group for my investments. He handles mine. I can tell you from experience, he is phenomenal. I highly recommend him. His retirement investments since July 2023 are up 64% as of today, September 2025, and that includes fees and costs. And the S&P 500 is up only 48% during that same period. So he is got a phenomenal track record at the Main Street Group. The average client pays less than 1% per year, which also includes tax and financial planning fees. By the way, past performance does not guarantee future results. Make sure you mention Men's Alliance when you reach out, and they will invest the first year of fees into Men's Alliance 501c3 nonprofit. That's right. Part of their mission to invest in bringing men closer to Christ, with over 200,000 raised for Men's Alliance so far. So Doc, Nuke, Sherpa, and Rev all are tribesmen at the Main Street Group. They are fee-only fiduciaries, and Tom Doc is the owner. He's a certified financial planner, a Dave Ramsey Smart Vestor Pro. They use Charles Schwab to manage their client assets, and their office is in Innsbruck, Virginia, but they can serve clients throughout the world. With Tom, you get a guy who has been recognized as the #2 financial advisor by the Richmond Times-Dispatch, #1 in Style Weekly, and a top 40 under 40 advisor in the country in 2019. He's also been recognized by the Wall Street Journal, Fortune, and Forbes magazine. Dave Ramsey and Charles Schwab are separate entities, of course, from the Main Street Group. So check them out if you're looking for any sort of financial advice, planning, investments. You can't beat the Main Street Group. Call Doc and tell him you're with Men's Alliance.
Yes. So I've worked one-on-one with dads as well, and lots of dads who have had teenage daughters or younger daughters even. And the principles still transfer over. I think it's a lot more about you being comfortable as a dad and leaning into your strengths. So we all, like for myself, I am not actually a super social person. I'm much more comfortable going out on an adventure and doing, like, learning something, climbing a rock wall, going to jujitsu. That's a lot more of my comfort zone than going to a party. Like at a party situation or, lunchtime where you're kind of like sitting and just chatting, that's actually pretty difficult for me. And so
you would rather choke out a stranger than have to have a conversation with them.
that sounds much more enjoyable. Yeah. or they end up choking me out. Either one's fine.
Or the other way around.
Yeah.
You'd rather get choked than have to talk to somebody at a cocktail party.
Yes. That sounds like one is like, that sounds awesome. And the other is like, all right, what am I going to say? What do I do with my hands? Like, I don't know. That's my personality. And so, it's the same with daughters. We got to be ourselves. We got to be authentic. And as we're guiding them, and my daughters are 6 and 3, so I haven't guided teenage daughters to the same level of as I've guided my sons, but I have worked with a lot of teenage girls when I was a teacher, and they're a lot more connected with their emotion. And I think I told this story on your podcast. When I was teaching, we had I was kind of old school. I'd be like, all right, we're going to pick teams for soccer or whatever it might be. And often I would do either like, all right, we're going to do all boy captains or all girl captains, because the boys, when they pick, they're picking based on skill and who's going to give them the best chance to win, because that's what they want. Of course. You know,
what else could there possibly be?
And girls are like, this is a game in PE. I'm not going to remember. Nobody's going to remember. I care more about my relationship with my friend. I don't want not to be on her team, and then she's mad at me because I didn't pick her. So I'm going to pick my friends, which actually is a lot more of a contentious situation for girls than it is for boys, because we're just like, we're not. If you pick me first, cool, I'm doing it. If you pick me last, like, oh, I'm going to prove to you, like, I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder now. So the girls are often base their decisions on emotions, as where guys more often make their decisions on performance. And so that connection, though, can be really beautiful, because they're able to, like, if you watch a softball game, I'll take my daughters to a softball game. Like, the passion and the energy that they have is contagious. As where if we go to a baseball game, you know, it's just, that's all cool. Like, we hit, yeah. Everything is like the temperature is very neutral. And so to experience those joys at a higher frequency with daughters is really exciting.
That is a great point that I've never thought about before, but you're absolutely right. Like, I've you know, my daughter plays softball, and you're absolutely right. I've seen that. You go to a guy's baseball game, they're sitting in the dugout pretty quietly. Everybody's just kind of sitting there spitting seeds. You go to a girls' softball game, and it is like pandemonium in the dugout. They are all singing and chanting, and I mean, it's you know, and it's an emotional event.
Yes.
I've never really thought about it in those terms before, but yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's huge. And what's important to women is very different. Like, when I talk to moms about the father-son retreat, they're like often almost in tears about how excited they are to potentially like have their husband and son come. Most of the time I talk to dads, and they're a lot more like, they're trying to size me up. They're trying to understand the program. They're trying to understand the logistics. Yeah. And mom's just like, oh my gosh, a stronger bond between my dad, my son, and my husband. Like, I don't need to know anything else. So we obviously need both of them, right? We need both, but the joy that the feminine, this is cool. We're kind of just going down a rabbit hole, but the joy that the feminine energy brings, which that also, it's not always joy, right? Sometimes it's chaos and immense sadness or immense anger or whatever it is, but their willingness to express their emotions is something that I believe is really to be celebrated. So I think there is, with young men, it's a lot more about creating them to be ready to make the decision. They could make sound decisions. So that they can lead and be equipped with what they need. But with the young ladies, it's not too different, because they've got to be able to know, one, how to use this feminine energy in a way that honors God, and then be able to see attacks, but then also ultimately know how to choose and select who's going to lead them. Because I just believe, as God's created us as men to lead, which has been actually dismissed a lot of the times, and He's created women to follow, but that's almost more responsibility in a lot of way, in that they have to choose the right person to lead them. Because if they choose the wrong, it could be really dangerous.
Oh man, that's so true. I think for a lot of men, the idea of raising teenage sons sounds like, yeah, it's going to be a rocky, rough road, but I can do it. But then the idea of teenage daughters is the most terrifying thing on the planet for a lot of dads, because we don't understand them, we don't get them, we weren't ever one of them.
Yes.
Right? We were all teenage boys. We get teenage boys, but like teenage daughters might as well be from a different planet. But what I've experienced, I've got a daughter that's 19 and in
Yes.
college now, and then I've got a daughter that's 15. Is it's actually way easier than you think it's gonna be. Like you psych yourself out for this one, thinking this one's gonna be hard. But it's so different. And a good example is this. So a couple years ago in Men's Alliance, we started doing these father-daughter campouts.
Oh, wow.
We call them Warrior Princess. And I'll tell you what, I thought as we were putting this thing together, it's a huge event, like a couple hundred dads and daughters at a huge place. And I'm like, this is the most terrifying thing Men's Alliance has ever bit off to do. And then when the event got underway and all the dads are out there, the tents are set up, everybody's making fires and eating dinner and stuff, it was so easy. It was the easiest thing we've ever done, because the difference in that feminine energy, that as you describe it, I like that term. The young girls at this thing, they like organized themselves, and they organized games, and they took care of each other. And like all the older girls kind of like looked out for the younger girls, and the dads, we were just sitting back watching this. We were like, wow, this is incredible. And, of course we do the father-son camp out called Warrior Night. It's pandemonium. It's like Lord of the Rings. The dads, we have to be there to make sure, like if you turn your back for a few minutes, they're in the woods making spears, and you're like, hold on. And but the girls, it's like, so my point is, for dads who are getting ready to go into the teenage daughter years, like, don't freak out, don't psych yourself out. This one's probably going to be, of course, every kid's different, but this one's not going to be as bad as you think it is. At least that was my experience. And when you realize, like you're saying, like, it's not about performance, it's about relationship.
Yes.
And our goal as dads is simply model being the type of male leader that you want your daughter to be attracted to one day, right? Because you're setting the baseline for what's normal. So however you act, however you treat her, is going to be what she expects from a boyfriend one day, from a date. So it's like, man, if you're treating her with respect and chivalry and all that stuff, that's what she's going to expect.
Yes.
And so that's our opportunity, man. Like, just hearing that, it's like, that's a tall order.
Yeah.
That's like, we've got a lot on us on this one.
And I would also say in that as well, and I think this is often lost today, is showing her how to treat her with respect and chivalry, and create a safe boundary for her that she's going to respect, even if she doesn't like it all the time, knowing like, all right, ultimately dad's able to show me love, but he's also able to say no at times.
Yeah.
And as you're talking about your event, what's beautiful about that experience is that you all created a masculine safe environment. They knew that they were going to be protected. They knew that they were going to be taken care of and loved and treated with respect, the way that God has intended us. And so it allowed them to tap into their true, like, feminine nature of like kindness and bringing up others. It's like women think so much differently about the relationships, even like a younger, if you've got a 16-year-old girl and then there's a 12-year-old girl, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, like, welcome, join the group, like, tell me about all that. For guys, it's like, okay, well, you got to prove yourself that you can perform and you can hang. Otherwise, there's there's rank here. You don't just get to be here, right? So it's such a fascinating when we strip away the environment that the world has created and go back to the way that God's intended us to lead and follow and create harmony, like how we just naturally lean into our roles. I love that story about your father-daughter event.
That's totally true. Take us back to the story with your son.
Yes.
So you left your job, you sold your house.
Yeah, well, for a year,
you moved?
We did an Airbnb with it for a year,
okay,
which turned it out like we made $500 the first year, so that was great.
So you uprooted and moved,
yeah.
Like you packed up and moved across the state.
Yes.
To pursue that relationship with your son.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? And tell us, like, how did that go? What happened, and how is the situation now?
Yeah, like how the ending of the story. So great question. So we left Eugene in October of 2022 to get out there so we could support Charles as he was going through high school. And I got there, and Charles was smoking weed all the time. He'd get home from school. We had him 50-50. We weren't even sure that he was going to follow the plan. Like we could have got out there,
right,
moved across the state, got a new house away from our parents, like further, like my parents were in Eugene. So like less family support, further from my wife's parents. And then first week be like, no, I'm not going over there to see dad. I want nothing to do with him. That could have happened. That was a risk we were like willing to take on. But when we came in and we welcomed him in, I remember he'd get back from school and his jacket would just like reek of weed. And then I'd be like, dude, Charles, like go take off your jacket. You're right next to the girls. And I was like, all right, well, this is a problem that we've got to figure out. And so I asked him, I was like, what is it that you're getting from marijuana? What's it providing for you? Not in an accusatory, like, you're screwed, man. I caught you. But
right.
And he's like, well, he kind of gave me some BS about how it helps me focus or whatever. Things he was telling himself. I was like, okay, well, we need to get you involved in something physical so we're taking care of your body. Like whether that's a sport, basketball, martial arts, something physical and active. And he's like me. He's high energy. Like he requires... He's a high energy or high motor, I like to say, right? High motor kids, like those kids that were going out in the woods and like finding and building spears at your camp. Those kids need physical activity. If you put them in a classroom for 8 hours a day, that's going to be not a great environment for them to develop. So he's like, all right, well, let's do some Muay Thai. And so I've been training jiu-jitsu for a long time. He picks up Muay Thai. And we start training Muay Thai together. We would go twice a week. And I remember we were first going together. He was like he's probably about the same height he is now. Let's say he was like 5'9", 5'10", but he was about like 120 pounds, like real thin because he hadn't really gone through puberty. And he starts putting on some weight, and he's like huge. I remember the first week we showed up and he was only able to do like half the class because he was so exhausted. And after a couple weeks of going, he really liked it. And he's like, okay, well, this isn't something he told me. He just started not smoking weed on the days that he would go. And he's like, he realized that if he smoked weed and he ate McDonald's before he went to Muay Thai, that didn't work out well.
Right.
So he's like, all right, well, I'll stop those days. And he's like, oh, actually, I feel better not smoking weed and doing this. So then it started to be, well, now like the whole day, now I'm going to try and train another day. So it just started to be less and less until he's like, I just feel better when I'm exercising and taking care of my body and not just like dependent on constantly going out and finding somewhere to smoke weed. And so by his sophomore year, he had gotten clean. He wrestled at 152 pounds, and he was
He
11.
wrestled for his school. He started wrestling.
Yeah. So he went
Oh
from
man, that's
being like the stoner kid, beginning of his freshman year, to the middle of his sophomore year. He actually changed schools. He was at a charter school, and he moved to like more of a traditional high school. And he was a varsity letterman in wrestling his first year.
Men, are you in the market to buy, build, or refinance a home? If so, you got to contact Chris Norwood, call sign Coop. He's with Town Bank Mortgage, and he's been doing this for over 22 years. He's licensed in 16 states, and he can absolutely help you get the house that you need to get. Contact Coop at Town Bank Mortgage. You can contact Coop at 804-439-3206. That's 804-439-3206. Wrestling is like, in my opinion, that's like the hardest thing you can do
Yes.
in an American high school.
Yes.
I've had sons that played football, lacrosse, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. Hands down, the wrestling is incredibly intense.
Yes.
Right? Even if you come out of just playing varsity football, you go into wrestling, you've just gone into the deep end, right?
Yes.
So, man, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see that transformation of what he believed and how he saw himself. And now he's 18. He's actually got just a couple credits left that he's finishing online. And he's hungry to get out into the world and do his own thing. He likes sales. That's he's very, very confrontational. And in a way that he's not afraid to dig into it. Like most people, if you've watched Fight Club, it's like most people will do anything to avoid a fight. Charles will do anything to get into it. Like, so if he's selling a shoe cleaner, doing like whatever it is, he loves to like have somebody be like, no, I'm not interested. And then like, well, let me see if I can dig and fight a little bit more of what I can do to create a little relationship with them. So maybe they give me some time and want to make a purchase. That's something that's going to be valuable to them. So he's got that strength that I think is going to serve him as he develops the skill. So I think he has to develop a little bit more of like the softness as well. But his grit, like you'd rather have somebody that's overly aggressive and then like peel it back than have to have somebody like, all right, you need to like step in and be a little bit more forward. So he's got that going for him.
That's cool. It's easier to dial it back than to try to put it in there.
Yes.
And so how's y'all's relationship now?
It's really
What's that
strong.
look like?
I'd say it's matured. Like we don't talk as much as we did when he was like a sophomore. But we just still talk and connect several times a week. And we still love to train together. He loves to travel on his own, which was something that was difficult for me as a dad to let go of some control. But he wants to go and like these opportunities to work, at these different trade shows and things. He's hungry to go pursue. And his openness and willingness to just know that I'm there, I think, is at a really high level. And there's like other challenges we've had as well with him, like between him and my wife. So it's his stepmom, because he's got issues with his own mom. So there's all these different layers. I don't know exactly where God's going to take Charles and my relationship to the next step, but I'm super proud of him. And I would say, especially since he's turned 18, I'm really at peace with the effort and time that I put into him, that he knows, looking back at his childhood, how much he's been loved and supported, and not just loved and supported from a nurturing way, but loved and supported in a way that's preparing him. And that's a really different type of relationship. It's almost like you have your buddies. You have your, if you think back to the football analogy, right? The different people on the team. You've got your buddies on your team. You've got the cheerleaders that bring you cookies before the game. That's kind of more like your mom, girlfriend, support, you know. And then you have your coach. And your coach is there to develop you and prepare you. And that's how I see myself as a dad. And so he might not tell me everything that he tells his buddies, but he knows that I'm there to support him in a way that there's nobody else that does.
Man, that is a great analogy. I'm going to use that because, you know, I've talked to so many men, either through I'm doing coaching with them or they're just Men's Alliance guys and we're just talking. And one of the things that I hear a lot is my son has gone off the rails. You know, something's crazy going on. He's using drugs or he's not talking to me or whatever it may be. And the dads are asking themselves, what did I do wrong? What did I do? Here's what's happening with my son. What did I do wrong? What can I do to fix it? And, you know, I think a huge, tough realization for us as dads is, you might not have done anything wrong. You can do everything to the best of your ability. You can go to all their sporting events. You can read a bedtime story to them every night. You can try to do all those things that you know a good dad should do. But at the end of the day, they're becoming their own independent, individual person. And they're going to make their own choices. And I think a lot of men, a lot of dads take too much credit when their kid turns out amazing.
Yes.
Like, oh, my son, he's, All-American this and that, and he got accepted to this school. That's great, you know, but he did that, not you.
Yes.
And then a lot of dads beat themselves up too much when things don't turn out well. So it's like, you know, we've got to realize as dads that, hey, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to be the best dads, the best leaders that we can be. But at the end of the day, we also have to release them to their own choices, and they're their own man. And I'm thinking now as I'm learning, you know, I'm you know, still got, you know, kids that are teenagers and 20s, and I'm 46. But I'm realizing that part of parenting, the part where they become adults and they're in their 20s, is actually harder.
Yeah.
This is the hardest part. And I'm talking to dads, a lot of my buddies, they're in their 50s and their kids are late 20s or 30s, and they're like telling me it only gets harder. Like it gets harder to raise a 28-year-old or a 34-year-old because that dynamic of you having to let go, you having to step back and only be there for them if they ask you to be.
Yes.
But other than that, you're just sitting there watching the show, and sometimes, you know, we know better or we know how this is going to play out.
Yes.
But we just have to sit back, and I'm like, okay, this is where it gets even harder.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, you do have to surrender that. Like, all right, they're the main character in their own story. And just as you said that, there's a couple things that popped up on it to me is the enemy wants us to look back because we can't change what's behind us. And then we get wrapped in shame. Like, oh, I mean, okay. So I use this analogy with my clients to say there are multiple reels that every athlete has. Let's just say Peyton Manning. You could watch a 3-minute clip of Peyton Manning and he's amazing. And you could also watch a 3-minute clip where he looks terrible. But which one are you replaying in your mind? And,
that's a great point.
You know, if you're replaying, oh my gosh, look at the mistake. I threw an interception in the first quarter, and you just keep thinking about that interception. Well, what's going to be likely to happen next? Another interception. So we want to be mindful of, not that we're ignoring that it happens when we go back and look at the tape, but we just don't want to asphyxiate ourselves on something that's gone wrong. Because when we look back, we're not able to change it, and we get in this pattern of shame rather than a pattern of confidence. And really focusing on, good morning, my daughter's just coming in here.
Hey, that's real life right there. I love it.
You want to say hi?
Hello. Good morning.
Well, this right here is the process, right?
Yeah.
focused on the process of like, what can I do as a dad? What's the best move that I can make today? What's the best move on the board if you're a chess player? And if you're just always focused on the process of what I can do today, then the results will be what they are. Because like you said, often as parents, we're so caught up on, did my kid score a goal? Did they get approved for the college? Whatever it might be, that we lose track of like, what's the process that I'm doing as a leader? Am I doing the reps?
That's so good. I think there's a lesson that God is trying to teach us through everything, right? And I think he's also using the struggles that we go through as dads with the relationship with our kids. I'm convinced, I'm still searching for it sometimes. Sometimes I see it, sometimes it's not very clear, but I'm convinced that there's always a lesson there where God's trying to show us how he feels about us being our Heavenly Father. And the way we feel towards our kids, that's how he feels about us. And then you realize, like, that's why he chose to create fathers and kids, and then to call himself Father, and to use the analogy. He created the analogy so that we could understand his love for us. And I think that's really like the big picture is, man, when our kids, like you went through, where they're not talking to us.
Yes.
It's like, hey, God just wants us to talk to him.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, man, okay, that's how he feels about me. He would rather me come talk to him, angry at him, than not talk to him at all.
Yes. Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy of just the connection that we have with our Father, our leader. And ultimately, as we're guiding our kids, we're figuring it out too. We're figuring out how to be led by God and to take the right actions. It's just it's getting more and more challenging. I was talking to our church group like 2,000 years ago, even 300 years ago. Well, it's dark. You can sit around the fire. There's not a lot else to do but to be with God and be present. And now we've got lights, we've got phones, we've got constant things pulling us away. So listening for that voice of God and where he's leading us is going to help our kids, set the example for our kids, so that this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like to be a part of a home where God is leading.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Tom, tell us what's your website? Where can guys go to learn more about your resources, your ministry?
Absolutely. The best thing is to go to dadswholead.com. There's a free leadership quiz, and there are 3 different leadership styles. There's the Admiral, the Mastermind, and the Guardian. And so you'll get a full results of what your leadership style is, as well as stay updated with our podcast and then the other resources we have going on. If you're interested in our Father-Son Retreat, go to our website. It's the Play to Win experience. You can just find it up there on the tab and apply right now. We're doing open enrollment. So if this is something you're interested in, it's a good time to get in, because we try to get things dialed in before we get into the spring and start competing with sports schedules and all that. We want to be on the calendar early for families. And if you just need to reach out and you're struggling, I'm on Instagram, The Leadership Dad. I'm not super active on there, but I will get your message and get back to you as soon as I can.
Tom, I really appreciate your time. Love what you're doing. We'll put those links in our show notes. Guys, check this out. And you are in Oregon, right?
Yes, sir. So we have an event that we're doing in Oregon, in Tahoe, down in California, and then we're going to Texas as well. And my wife and I are talking about maybe doing something over on the East Coast as well, if there's a demand for it.
Very cool. Love it. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you and what you're doing.
Thank you for having me on.
To find out more about what we are doing in Men's Alliance, go to men'salliancetribe.com. This will help you find a tribe near you. We have grown so much over the past few years. There are thousands of tribesmen all over the country in hundreds of tribes. We're growing every single week. Go to men'salliancetribe.com, find a tribe near you, or maybe you're the man to start one in your area.